Is it the members or is it the member government?
I think it's
33% of current voting members.
Current voting members. Well, like Colorado Springs has 3. Yeah, so we got, so it's like 18. I think we got it. 1, 2.
I think we need 7.
Yes. Bill just came in. How we doing? There's 1, 2.
Good morning, Council Member. Huh? Yeah, we're hanging in there, right? Thank you.
Yeah, no, we got it. We got it.
We'll see.
Couple more people walked in.
Hey, what are we doing wrong? We're sitting here and Tom Strand is in Charleston, South Carolina.
I would be there if it weren't for the election.
What's the South Carolina?
The regional leaders trip.
Oh, the regional
Chamber.
Chamber. Yeah, something about election kind of occupying us a little bit right now.
Yeah, I started on Monday. And I had a week before.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out a way to get my city to pay for care for my mother and my family.
I can't imagine why.
Well, under the new Affordable Care Act, we'll be able to have them all.
That's right.
So we're transitioning from the Unaffordable Care Act to the slightly less Unaffordable Care Act.
I noticed. I was going to find that.
Did I say that out loud? On the scope? Yeah. Good morning. We'll go ahead and come to order. I think we have enough. The numbers are just now coming in. We have a quorum. Go around and do the introductions real quick. Mayor?
Nicole Nicoletta, Manitou Springs.
Smith from Raymond.
Sharon Johnson, City of Downton.
Bill Murray, Colorado Springs.
Jill Gabler, Colorado Springs. I'm loud.
Norm State, Taylor County Commissioner.
Andy Pico, Colorado Springs City Council.
El Paso County Commissioner, Peggy Littleton, District 5.
Rick Sonnenberg, PPACG Acting Executive Director.
Mark Andrew, CDOT Region 2, filling in for Karen Rowe.
John Doucette, 21st Space Wing, Peterson Air Force Base.
Rocky Scott, Colorado Transportation Commission.
Ken Olson, representing Colonel Dunn from the Air Force Academy.
Ron Chisholm, Deputy Garrison Commander, Fort Carson.
Thank you all. God, this is loud. Put it back a little bit. Okay, we have the agenda before you. Any changes, additions, motions to approve?
Sure, I'll move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment for topics that are not on the current agenda. Come on up.
Good morning, PPACG Board. I'm Carl Schuler, Comprehensive Planning Manager for the City of Colorado Springs. I wanted to invite everyone here, including our regional partners, into the Plan COS process, which is our comprehensive plan that is underway for the city right now. And we're having an event on March 16th down at Pikes Peak Community College, and little open secret, that's right outside of the city. So we're having our Plan COS event right outside of the city in the unincorporated county. Another little secret, you're in the city right now. So we really want to invite you into this process. I'm going to just pass these out. We've got 300 people signed up already for this event in Eventbrite. We'd love to have even a few more. We have a survey. Go to the website, Plan COS, take our survey. We'd love to get input from Teller County, from Monument, from the unincorporated county, because you all interact with us in this process. Again, you have a survey on your own 2050 plan. We're trying to put that out. We'd really appreciate it if you get our survey out. We have 1,200 responses to our second survey as of this morning. We want to get to 5,000 at least. 1,200. So we're getting there. And we have posters. If you'd like to put a poster up for our event that's coming up, I will leave these here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, next item up is the consent items. Anyone want to pull anything off the consent? Anyone from the public want to pull anything off consent?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think we got it. Any opposed? Okay, we got it. Action items, first item up, 5A, Fort Carson Special Operations Force Lift Station. Moving quickly.
Good morning. I'm Peter Gillespie, Environmental Manager here at PPACG. This project is for a proposed lift station upgrade, similar to the one that we presented before you last month at Fort Carson. Fort Carson is growing and adding facilities, adding personnel, so that entails more wastewater infrastructure. With this upgrade, they're roughly doubling the capacity of, of an existing lift station from about 100 gallons per day to 225 gallons per minute, as an estimated peak flow. With this increasing capacity, there will be some upgrades. They're replacing floats with pressure transducers. That's a good thing, more reliable operations. The facility will have backup diesel-powered emergency electricity, a very good thing. The facility will have 4 hours of backup storage capacity. That's normally not very much, say, in a commercial or municipal facility. We would take off our glasses and squint our eyes, but not at Fort Carson because they have 3 back trucks and they have the material and equipment that they can respond within an hour. So that's really not a concern. Also, the system is hooked up to computer SCADA, and it's got an alarm. So if a thing goes down, everybody that needs to know is going to know about it. So that addressed those concerns of the Site Application Review Committee, the Water Quality Management Committee, and also the Community Advisory Committee. Did I get that right, Bethany? Sometimes I misspeak. Anyway, all of those groups, we all looked at it and had a good discussion among all 3, and everyone recommended that it be sent to you, the board, for your consideration. Their view was all positive unanimously. And PPACG staff also recommends that this project be approved as technically it looks good, and it's in accord with our 208 watershed wastewater management plan. So we submit this for your review respectfully. We collectively recommend that it be approved. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes. Trustee Smith.
I move to approve.
Second?
Move to approval. Any other discussions? Comments from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Colorado legislative session update. A daily changing, hourly changing.
Good morning, Board. I'm Jessica McMullen, your Policy and Communications Manager. You all got a updated list of bills and the policy statement yesterday from me. I do apologize, but as you know, I've mentioned a couple of times, things move rather quickly. When your packet was initially sent out, I let you guys know. Just a recap of what we've decided the process for this year is. The state legislative updates and looking for new bills of interest happens every week and is now sent to staff, TAC, CAC, and the Board Legislative Committee. I've actually been sending it to all of the boards so that if anyone has comments, they can reply to determine if it's related to PPACG and how. The Board Legislative Subcommittee is meeting Mondays at 4 p.m. That is an open meeting, and you all should have gotten also the call-in information for that, so that if that's easier for you and you just want to participate that way, we'd love to have you, so that they can look at all of the comments that have been received and make a suggestion to the Executive Committee. Those will be ratified at the board meetings on the second Wednesday of each month. Updates from last month, 1054. The community military cooperation continues to move forward. Do I have the most recent Excel doc up as well? Okay. Because some of these have actually changed since I sent that out. So that passed it is Give me a second. It's trying to confuse me. I promise I'm not that easily confused, but it just seems like it. Senate Bill 11 is moving forward, was heard by the House Transportation and Energy Committee. 1087, the Office of Public Guardianship, is moving forward. There are a couple of bills that we had marked as monitor that have been postponed indefinitely, so are dead. The rural broadband deployment is the one that you had already heard about. Senate Bill 153, the Southwest Chief and Front Range Passenger Rail Commission, does continue to move forward. So those are some of the major highlights from there. The new bills that PPACG has not yet taken a stance on formally are House Bill 1153, the Highway Congestion Mitigation Bill, which the Legislative Council suggested support. One of the things that we had heard a request for is a quick summary for the Citizens Advisory Council, and so we have tried adding those in as well. This bill, got a cold, suggests expanding I-25 by creating a high-occupancy toll lane, and specifies that those toll lanes will be for vehicles carrying 2 or more people, instead of right now where it's, it's dependent on each region. Each toll area can determine their own. Yes, which is interesting.
Do you know, would it be tied into the E470 sticker or a totally different funding and you'd have to have a separate sticker?
Unknown.
Okay.
Doesn't specify. Senate Bill 188 is the repeal of the income tax credit innovative motor vehicles. This asks for a ballot question in November of 2017 to ask voters to repeal the income tax credit for electric cars and trucks beginning in January of 18. It would add that money to the general fund for to the highway users tax fund and exempt the money from Tabor. The third bill we've got up here is Senate Bill 205, Multimodal Transportation Infrastructure Funding, which, sorry, you'll see me skipping around so I can try to read what I already wrote, initiates another ballot question November of 2017 to ask for an increase in state sales tax and use tax to address priority multimodal transportation needs. Would exclude this money from Tabor as well. And then the last thing we've got on our list for today is we had House Bill 1139 listed as does not impact PPACG bill. It is the Medicaid Provider Compliance Billing Safety Rules. We did receive a request from a board member to move that to monitor, as they felt that while it doesn't have a great direct impact on PPACG, it does have an indirect impact that we could benefit from being aware of what's going on with the bill. Does anyone have any questions about any of these 4 bills?
Any questions?
What was the recommendation from the committee on Senate Bill 205, the multimodal? That was the one?
There was.
Yep.
I thought it was no action. For
Position.
monitor.
Yeah.
They suggested opposing it.
Oppose it.
They felt that it was too many ballot issues being proposed for transportation funding and would not directly address the necessary improvements needed to I-25 in the Gap corridor.
Do you know who the sponsors were on 205?
I do. The major sponsors were Senator Kafalis and Representative Rosenthal, but it did also include our local representative Merrifield.
Okay. There's a number of bills moving through the House on transportation funding. Position on this one would have to be balanced against positions on the other bills that are also moving. So when you take a position on one, even though we all advocate for transportation funding, you might be doing it to the exclusion of something that might be better. So
Yes.
And maybe why the opposed position was taken, I guess?
Correct.
Okay.
They felt that this specific bill did not directly enough impact what PPACG's priorities are and may in fact detract from our ability to address those later.
Are there any committee bills coming from TLRC or from, I understand that even the president and speaker may be joint sponsoring a bill.
They are still working on it. I'm going to chime in here and interrupt. There is Representative Terry Carver and Representative Dan Nordberg from our area have scheduled a public forum that all of you are invited to on this Friday, March 10th at
3 p.m.
3 p.m. at the El Paso County Citizen Service Center to talk about all the different transportation funding options, not only that they are both proposing, because they both have different bills, but to hear from Norm about what CCI is proposing and to hear from Councilmember Gabler about what CML has been talking about, and from Rachel Beck with the Chamber to talk about what is the business community hearing as their priorities for transportation. And it relates to this.
With the focus on the funding for those priorities.
Yeah,
What's the funding source?
Yeah, what the funding source should be, what it should look like, and how people are finding themselves in conflict about that discussion and what compromises are being proposed.
Yeah, I forget the bill number, but one of them is proposed by Denver Metro Mayor's Council, which proposed a 5 cent to 6.2 cent sales tax. Right, that reaction right there is committee in the local government.
And I don't think that bill has been introduced yet, but it has been requested to handle transportation funding statewide.
As a method for paying a bond.
Okay.
A 5 cent?
That's right.
Oh, 0.5.
0.5. Well, half a penny. half a penny. Half a penny.
That had about a 0 chance.
A few zero. Yeah, what's the decimal point among friends?
Are there any questions on any of the other bills?
And what happens with these recommendations, Jessica?
We send them to our legislators and let them know. At this point, we haven't taken any active, aggressive motions. None of these bills have been ones that we were like, these are PPACG's hill to die on. They've been important, but many of them we know are more statement than reality. These are not bills likely to pass thus far because they don't have the right amount of bipartisan support.
We don't have a lobbyist.
We don't have a lobbyist. The closest we have is me, and I send an email to the legislators relating to the bills, and I say, hey, just so you know, PPACG is supporting, opposing.
Well, in Teller County, we say we have 3 lobbyists. They're called commissioners.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I do my very best to make sure I don't become a lobbyist because I want to.
No, you can't be.
Yeah.
But
So.
about registering and.
Yeah, a whole pile of headaches.
But you're elected officials, I guess everybody in the room here, that if you have a view for representing your government, I encourage you to step up, make a phone call, be aware of the Pikes Peak Council position.
And if you need help reaching any of your legislators, I have all of their contact information for you. Many of our local legislators have given me their cell phones, and I'm sure they would not object to me sharing them with you to reach out to them and let them know so that they can make decisions that represent our regions.
Right.
And I would also caution that you cannot speak for PPCG unless the board has taken that position.
Taking that
Yes.
position.
So you
Right.
may be a representative on the board, but you can't speak for the board unless the board has taken that position as a vote. You may
Right.
represent your own government at any time.
Or yourself.
Or yourself.
Yeah.
As a-
Trustee Smith and then Councilwoman Thompson.
Yes, once you've held the meeting on Monday on the legislative issues before the PPACG, will you then take the results of that meeting and forward it to CCI and I forget the other organization?
CML.
I am trying to share those with CCI, CML, El Paso County, the City of Colorado Springs, with anybody who's told me they have a lobbyist that they'd like me to be in touch with.
Okay.
So if anybody else has one that I didn't just mention.
I know that was kind of in the works, but I didn't know if that was going forward or not.
Yeah.
All right, because I know Jill had brought it up at at a previous meeting.
Okay. Council.
I actually did make a couple of phone calls this week and spoke with 2 representatives, Representative Landgraf and Representative Williams, just with concerning questions, and told them some of the questions that had come up in the committee and clarifications. Representative Williams did state that the bill he's running, they were working on, he had heard some of the concerns on both sides that we'd expressed in the meeting, and he was going to be working on some amendments to that and would get that to us as soon as we had the amendments prepared for, just a couple things that were kind of unclear in the bill. And so he had been made, so they are very open to. He was actually really pleased somebody called him.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Well, Dave was pretty good about that. Yeah.
We've got great legislators locally.
Yeah. Any other questions, Council? So if I can summarize what you're asking us to
The action I am asking for is for you to ratify the Legislative
Ratify.
Council's positions.
Yeah, which is neutral except for Senate Bill
Support,
2.
monitor, oppose, and move to monitor.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed one. Okay, support, monitor, oppose, and monitor.
Yes.
Okay? You have it for you. Entertain a motion. Anybody?
I move as stated.
I'll second that we move to support the legislative committee's direction.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good.
Thank you all. And if you're going to
Thank
attend
you.
the Terry Carver event, please let me know so I can get you on our RSVP list.
Okay, action 5C, the TIP amendment number 7.
Morning, everyone. Kevin Reyes, Transportation Planner here at PPACG. Today I'm going to be going over Amendment number 7 to the 2017-2022 Transportation Improvement Program. Amendment number 7 is coming to us from the Colorado Department of Transportation, and they are planning to add 6 new projects into the TIP. They've selected these projects during their public process for the development of the 2018-2021 statewide Transportation Improvement Program, and these projects were selected at the Region 2 Transportation TPR meeting. All of these projects are going to be funded with either Regional Priority, TAP, Surface Treatment, or Bridge Asset Management funds. If you look at attachment number 2 to your packet, you can see which projects they plan to add. I'll pull that up on the screen for people in the audience. It's a little bit small. Okay. So I'll quickly go through these projects. If you're interested in knowing exactly where they are or which structures I'm referring to, feel free to ask me after I go through them real fast. So the first 2 projects on the list are both bridge repair projects. The first one is the US 24 bridge repair just west of Manitou to West Chipeta. And this is just a $6,000 project, and they're planning to repair the rail along that bridge there. The second project is also bridge repair, State Highway 85 and I-25. And this project is going to consist of scour repair and gutter maintenance. And this project has funds programmed in 2021 and has $541,000 of federal and state funds for that project. The third project in the list is the Ute Pass pedestrian project. And this project is part of the trail segment for Ring the Peak. And so this project is going to be receiving $850,000 $850,000 total with a local match from El Paso County for $170,000. The next 2 projects are both surface treatment projects. The first one is US 24 west of Manitou to West Chipeta Park. And this is a 5-mile surface treatment project, and it's a minor rehab mill and overlay. And they have $5,800,000 programmed for this project in 2020. The next project is also a surface treatment project, and it's I-25 South Academy. It starts, it's an 8-mile segment, and it's going to be major rehab all the way down to the concrete. And they have $15,900,000 programmed for this project in 2020. The last project in the list is a widening project. It's for I-25 from Circle to Fountain. And this is money used for the design for this project. And they're planning to widen I-25 on that segment from 4 to 6 lanes. And they have $1,500,000 programmed in 2021 for that project. So these are all the projects we have for the amendment number 7 for this month. The CAC, TAC, and PPACG staff all recommend approval for the TIP amendment number 7. Take any questions you might have.
Any questions?
No, I'd like to move approval. Oh, unless there's a question.
Well, go ahead. We can discuss after.
Have a motion?
I'll second.
Second?
Discussion.
Commissioner?
Question on the first rehab project, the surface treatment. That's the West Chipeta Park, 5 miles at $5.8 million for an overlay?
Million a mile.
It must be more than just overlay.
No, thanks, Commissioner. It is actually just a surface treatment, and but it does. We do have 4 lanes, and we do have some turn lanes in there, so it's a pretty wide road. So that's not unreasonable. Now, there will be other rehab that we do if, for example, any culvert repair that we need to look at, any bridge maintenance that we need to look at, we'll fix those too. So, yeah, that seems very high considering the 5-mile stretch, but when you take into account a 4-lane road with shoulders, that's pretty standard.
Wow.
Million a mile?
$1 million a mile for asphalt.
Mile, yeah.
In 4 lanes. So it'd be 20 lane miles, roughly, plus shoulders.
Right.
Okay, wow.
So to give you an example, our State Highway 67 overlay
Yeah.
is about a 20-mile overlay,
Yeah,
2
8.6.
lanes. It's 10 million for 20 miles.
8.6 million,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But the lane miles are not the same, right?
right. The lane miles aren't the same. So it's fairly comparable in that respect, so.
Okay.
What's that? Thanks. And just to continue that questioning, so what's the expected life of the new overlay as far as?
We hope to get 10 years. I think we resurfaced that roadway about 13, 14 years ago.
Okay.
So you can see it's needed again. We'll probably do it in another 2 years. And so we'll probably get about anywhere from 15 to 17 years out of that, which is pretty good,
Okay.
considering. So we'd like to get 10. We hope for 15, typically.
So that affects Teller County traffic. What's your plan for, is it 1 lane closed or multiple lanes closed, or any idea?
For what we'll do is we'll look at the traffic patterns and we'll try to stay out of the peak periods. If we do get backups, we may even have to go to a nighttime paving potentially. We'll see. We just haven't looked at that much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? We have motion and second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Military installations report. Colonels?
Good morning again, Rod Chisholm. Thank you for the approval for the lift station. I know we talked about lift station approval last meeting as well. And some of the reasons that some of this underlying infrastructure is coming up at Fort Carson is we had been expanding in the Special Forces Group area, as well as a stand-up of the whole Combat Aviation Brigade, which is right adjacent to that in the southern point of our cantonment. So if you look at all that's funded between what has been funded in the last 4 years and ongoing for the next 4 years, we're about 60% complete in placement of some of that infrastructure. So there may be more items that would continue to come as we expand our infrastructure. On another note, of course, I'd reported a lot of storm damage and that had occurred in January, and of course we've continued to have high winds. Good news for us at Fort Carson is at the Department of the Army level, we got a plus up in our dollars for maintaining our infrastructure. Is about $10 million plus up, which is 18% of our overall account for building maintenance. So we're going to get after those repairs and some of the air conditioning that was knocked off those roofs. We want to get that done before it gets too hot. So we're working that, but that was a good news story. And then the last thing I have is along those lines, we've been told through the Department of the Army channels, and it may be coming through the other services, have a lot of projects ready for year end if there's some sort of infrastructure stimulus that spills on over into the Department of Defense. So we're working hard with our staffs to identify those types of things that are recurring maintenance, where maybe we can get a little bit ahead on paving or a little bit ahead on our roof repairs or different things like that. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Did I understand the wind took the air conditioning off the roof? That was a pretty good blow. Well, I'm assuming our hurricane force winds, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It was
The Category 2 hurricane equivalent.
What was reported coming on through the Manitou there was over 110 miles per hour or something like that.
101.
101?
I think it was 101 from Shannon Mountain Air Force Base.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. We enjoyed hosting folks out at Schriever for State of the Base last week, so thanks to everybody who came out for that. We are looking forward in April to opening our event center. We don't have anything on the base for a center for school-age children and older teens, so we're going to leverage this project to do some planning with Ellicott for programs this summer for school-age kids and do some partnering there and benefit both the base population and the folks in Ellicott, so looking forward to that. In May, the 310 Space Wing is planning on hosting an industry day prior to their UTA weekend, so that's typically the first weekend of the month where the reservists are out at the base in force on Saturday and Sunday, so they're looking to do that on, it'll probably be the first Friday in May. And we're also hoping to leverage the money that we're hoping comes down at the end of the year and looking to expand our fitness center and our medical clinic and maybe even add on to this structure that opens in April because we feel like there's more demand on the base than the size of this facility will accommodate for us. So, yeah, we typically are able to kind of shore up our budget with that money that falls out at the end of the year, and we're ready for it to come. So we're hoping that pans out for us.
Out at the Air Force Academy, things are going well. We continue to, it's the springtime, so we're starting to get towards spring, so starting to get ready for graduation. Of note, just like Schriever, State of USAF, everyone on the PPACG board should have got their invites for the 22nd of March for the State of USAFA. General Johnson will be hosting that. If you have not got your invite, please let us know. Melissa Porter, sitting over here in the front row, is our representative to make sure that you get an invite to come out. And beyond that, as previously stated, we're all getting ready, trying to get our construction schedules ready to get through the end of the year here, make sure we can get done what we can get done before next winter hits us. So, pending your questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
March.
Just a few items for our update from Peterson this morning. So no significant updates on the PFOA issue since last month. Additionally, Colonel Dormany participated in the Community Partnership Initiative, and I wanted to express our appreciation for the support within the community for that. Mentioned last month, the Air Force Space Command Inspector General team is visiting us this week. They'll be with us through the 13th of March, next Monday, and we'll get our outbrief from the team. Lastly, I mentioned last month as well, we are planning a 21st Space Wing anniversary event. Looks like we have finalized a date for that. It's going to be the 25th of May. We are planning a ceremony in the afternoon as well as a dinner in the evening. So I expect more details on that to come. So pending any questions, that's all I have this morning.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks. Appreciate that.
Just a comment.
Comment? Commissioner?
Thank you. No questions, just a comment. I just wanted to thank all of you, if you would extend it up your chains as well, for the verbal support and the CCTA grant, the Complex Coordinated Terrorist Attacks grant, while we weren't able to secure a formal letter of support simply because of the appearance of federal funding coming from federal funding. I really am very, very appreciative. And hopefully by April the 10th, we'll find out whether we were able to secure some of the $2.3 million that we requested for the CCTA grant. So thank you for your support. If you'd pass that on up, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, the Executive Director's report.
Good morning again. I have 4 or 5 items. The first one is out of my memo that's in the packet. And Joe Urban, if you'll stand by for questions on this one. The El Paso County No Wrong Door pilot grant proposal was submitted to the state on January 30, but unfortunately, unbeknownst to us, the state dropped the funding for that by more than 2/3, and the partners group that were partnering with us for the grant application decided to withdraw our interest from this grant. So the partners' letter is attached to the Executive Director's report in your packet. And Joe I'll pause here, and if you have any questions, Joe can step up and answer those.
Any questions from the members of the board?
Well, the need is certainly still there.
Yes.
Yes. But we'll have to pursue other avenues of funding.
the question came up during the board workshop about follow-up, and that group will be getting together to look at other funding options. It's a great proposal. It's a really good working group, so we'll look to see where we can go with this.
Okay, no other questions?
Okay, 3 other items that are not in my memorandum. The first one is a timetable that the staff developed for reviewing the PPACG Personnel Guidelines Manual, and I'll pass that around. Well, thank you. Okay. I believe the board's goal was to have this to the board at the May meeting, and that's what this timetable accomplishes. Wait a few seconds and
Any questions?
let you scan that before I go to the next item.
Is Evan providing his services from Mountain States at cost, or what's our? Part of our contract. Part of our contract?
Part of our
Yes.
contract, yeah.
Part of our contract.
No extra cost.
That's what I mean.
Extra cost.
Yeah, they're a part of our deal. Very good.
Our deal?
And then the next item is that the board has directed that the board bylaws be reviewed, and yesterday the PPACG managers group went over those, made some comments in blue, and that's in my next handout.
I have one.
Certainly not expecting any review or action today, but this is an invitation to the board to develop a process for the board's review, to look over the staff's comments and recommendations. The timetable will be totally up to you.
Who did you say is so far?
The managers group, the staff managers group.
Yeah, staff. I don't think he's got this version.
Not with the comments.
Not with the manager's comments.
Comments were just,
Yeah,
the comments were just generated yesterday.
right. Now, we discussed this at the last meeting, and my recollection is we had a couple of people who were on the board who were going to take a look at this, but my memory fails me at this point as to who was going to be on there. I know, Sharon, you were doing the personnel. And my recollection is that we tapped Commissioner Waller in absentia, and he is still here, not here. But I don't, I think we need to have at least a couple of our board members take a look at this and review the comments and make recommendations back. So I'm soliciting volunteers, and you like bylaws? Awesome. You have the lead.
Because I hate bylaws and think they should be sent by now.
Yeah. Meet, adjourn, right? Yeah. Okay.
And my last item is in the PPACG board-approved work program, there's a 319 grant, and our environmental manager, Pete Gillespie, is going to come up shortly and give a presentation on his recommendation that we turn over the supervision and management of the 319 grant to other agencies. Pete?
Good morning. Sometime, I believe, in 2014, about a year before I got here, my predecessor and others interested applied to CDPHE for a grant to fund the development of a water quality management plan for Fountain and Monument Creeks, which would focus on bacterial contamination and then identify likely causes and make remedies for their rectification. As I came on board here about a year ago, started to get into this work, it became evident after a few months into it, A, that the work is very good and needs to be done, yet the scope of it, the expectation from among the various stakeholders started to grow. Not a bad thing, that's a very good thing. And that's stormwater, as I'm sure all of you know, is very much at the forefront of particularly city issues today. After working on this for some months and making headway with respect to the initial phases of the project, primarily gathering data on water quality, water flow, putting those together, and producing a brief synopsis of how bacterial contamination looks in these streams from the headwaters to its confluence with the Arkansas River, and how that is related to stream flow and seasonality, it became apparent to me that the expectations have grown beyond what PPACG staff, principally myself, can service. So in working with the project co-funders, they are Colorado Springs Utilities and the Pikes Peak Regional Water Authority, we've come to agreement that PPACG should bring its formal involvement in the project to an end, also including the primary funder of this, which is the state, CDPHE. And then bringing this to an end, we've spent about 25% of the available funds to take us this far. CSU and PPWRA will continue this work with their own funds. They also have matching funds that are in our account that match the original grant. So the original CDPHE grant to PPACG was $40,000. We received matching funds from PPWRA of about $26,000, and Springs Utilities $2,000. We've burned through a quarter of that, leaving about 75% remaining. So what staff is recommending is that we stop this work, we write up what we've done to date in a nice, tight, crisp report so that we'll be in good graces with CDPHE, and they're in agreement with that. Colorado Springs Utilities and PPWRA, we're going to, I recommend, write a check to them returning their matching funds. They will use those with other funds that they have at their disposal. I also understand that collectively they are applying, I believe through the same grant program, for a similar grant. So instead of this work being through PPACG, funded by the state, if they're successful in that, the work will continue to be funded by the state, by others in town. All of this, I think, is a good thing. The staff that Springs Utilities in particular has brought to bear on it, their technical staff is first rate. The project is in really good hands. The impact on PPACG, there will be about $50,000 total that we would not now have to fund the environmental program. About $29,000 of this is CDPHE funds, which we would just stop billing for, and then the balance of about $21,000 we're actually returning, I propose, to the co-funding partners. As all of these discussions have been underway, we have a good relationship with CDPHE. Literally in the same week and on the same day that I'm talking to the project manager in CDPHE, I got a phone call from her saying, hey, we have a grant for you that I didn't anticipate. I knew it was possible, but didn't anticipate, to fund us for work that we already do as part of our work plan, primarily implementing our 208 water quality plan. So that's about $22,000, kind of a gift from them, so to speak. So that of the almost $50,000 that the environmental program would take a hit, about $22,000 is coming, will be coming in the mail from CDPHE. And secondly, with regard to the financial aspects, that frees up PPACG staff time, myself, to work with PPACG Transportation on projects for which external funding is available, but which we don't have the hands on deck to do. And I'm basically a math head, so I'm going to be assisting them with modeling work. both environmental modeling, but also, I understand, traffic data analysis, and things of that sort to help them with their efforts. The manner in which I propose that we bring this project to completion is in substantial accordance with our 217 work plan, understanding that we're ending it at about a quarter of the way through. So we're not going to take it all the way to plan, but we are completing the initial assessment of bacterial contamination in relation to geography and storm flow. Let's see what else. Looking forward, finally, as this is developing and going and as this is growing, I think that it is a better use of PPACG environmental staff time to let others take this project forward. Again, they're well-qualified people that will be taking this, and to strengthen internally our collaboration between environmental and transportation, taking advantage, again, of external transportation funds that need good hands to do work. So I think it's just a better bet. And going forward, if I were a betting man, so to speak, I think that there's going to be more opportunities in that direction than there would be financially in watershed work. Thus, I'm recommending that we proceed in this manner.
Are there any questions? Yes.
Trustee Smith? And then Mayor.
How does this affect the stakeholders? For example, this morning, Fort Carson came forward with a wastewater plan that they needed approved, and that's not the first time that an entity has come forward seeking approval.
Right.
And others have, and
This doesn't affect that. We have in place a Section 208 it's called a watershed management plan. That plan we do is that's part of our work plan. That's not changing. This watershed plan that I'm speaking of, it's a newer initiative, and it's a finite project. So the evaluation of wastewater infrastructure, that continues. And in fact, the funding that we are getting, kind of this gift, so to speak, a little bit out of the blue of about $22,000, that supports this work. It's work we're doing anyway. PPACG does this by statute, but we're essentially being reimbursed by CDPHE for doing that. That's evidence that CDPHE, they're not put off that we are recommending letting that 319 project go to other hands. So yes, that work continues, no worries.
Mayor, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, so that all sounds good, and I think we should support that. I'm always in favor of the best use of staff's time. But I would request if we could see that tight report that you put together.
Yes.
I would love that information, and then hopefully when it does complete in general with CSU and the other folks, that we'll get the final report as well. But
Oh, yes.
I look forward to the update of the 25% done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner?
If what member governments are on the table or have a comment on the current plan, we would comment through this format or through you. Under the new proposed management, will there still be a mechanism for member governments around this table to comment on the outcome plan?
Yes, there's a large stakeholder group. It's being run by Colorado Springs Utilities in the person of Mark Shea and his highly qualified technical staff. And they've got tentacles out throughout the community. Those are large meetings. When they have a stakeholder meeting, there are as many people at the table as there are here, and they come from all venues.
I would just ask, you'll be watching that process as it moves forward?
Yes, and I'm available as they request in an informal capacity, especially one of their tech folks calls up and says, Pete, how do you tweak this data? How do you look at this?
Yeah.
I'm available to do that, to help.
Okay, so I would just ask that if there's things affecting member governments here, that you kind of give us a heads up?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Appreciate that.
Trustee Smith?
Would the footprint change of the organization that is affected as far as the member governments?
No. No. This plan, the study and plan, addresses water quality in Fountain and Monument Creeks, focusing primarily on bacterial contamination. And it's really going to trigger, it's going to have bearing on stormwater runoff, because that is the primary, it looks like that's the primary source of the bacterial contamination. And so whether that final plan was written by PPACG or it's written by, say, the PPWRA, the authority, it won't matter. The state is going to use this plan once it is finalized to develop stream water quality ostensibly. They may use this, I should say, to refine and develop, possibly make more stringent, possibly not, water quality standards for Fountain and Monument Creeks. That has implications for everyone in the area. So.
Mr. Chair. It's staff's opinion that this decision can be made at the staff level, at my level, but if the board feels strongly that this should be a board decision, we will certainly yield to your decision.
Commissioner Steen and I kind of reviewed this yesterday, and we both concurred with that assessment. This was an executive director level decision, but we felt appropriate to bring in for information to the board. So any other comments? Since we are ceding leadership of a program to someone else, although the program is continuing and not, it is not dropping by the wayside.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had anything else?
I'm done.
I'm going to insert an item here, take advantage of the executive director's report position, to inform the board that under our personnel guidelines, someone who is terminated has the right to appeal to the executive committee. We have received such an appeal, and to let you know that we will be processing that in the weeks ahead. Okay. Transportation Advisory Committee. Welcome back to PPACG.
Well, thank you, Andy. Brandy Williams, City Engineer, City of Fountain. It has been about 4 years since I've been here, so I just had a question that came up, and I'm new. I've only been on the TAC for 4 months. 4 years ago, we used to have a different order of operations. We would have the committee reports, and then the board would vote. And just a message that I can take back to the TAC is that if you have any issues with our recommendation or a question before you vote, I would assume that you would move that up before you vote, because we had a concern that you all vote and then I give the report.
Yeah, let you know that we make a conscious decision to move the action items up front and take the reports, but that when the action item is up there, if you have comments, you absolutely jump in.
Okay.
And the recommendations are taken very, very seriously.
Okay, and I'll take that back to the committee then, so that whoever's normally here, which isn't me, Brian should be here, and then Victoria, and then me, but I got drafted for today. So you have voted on TIP Amendment number 7, and we recommended approval of that amendment. FASTER and HSIP projects were presented to the TAC, and there were thankfully quite a few from this region, so that was very encouraging. The draft freight project scenarios were submitted to the TAC. I feel like this is leaning only to the chair. And there were not any projects from this area on there, and we're still in ongoing discussions as to whether or not projects from this region will make the cut on that particular list or not. So if anyone has any concerns about that, obviously talk to Andy or Norm or any on the executive committee and see if there is a way to make the list, because going forward I think it's going to be more difficult than it was for the first 2 years. After this we have to get on the particular state freight plan. So if anyone has any freight issues in their area, let us know. If not, then we'll move forward as it stands. We're working on a priority project list, something that this board can look at to say these are our priority projects in the region. Obviously, I-25 North is the big project of the hour, but what are, not necessarily in order, but 2, 3, 4, 5, just something that this board can kind of rally around in case, as everyone has mentioned, funds appear that were unexpected, that we can say that they are our priority projects and we're ready to allocate funds to those. We are also working on the note policy. We've created a note policy task force. We had our first meeting last month. For that particular meeting, we met just with TAC members. The next meeting will include both TAC and CAC members moving forward. And I just wanted to report out the goals that we came up with, in case anybody has any questions, comments, concerns. Minimize and manage cost overruns, efficient and timely use of federal funds, provide flexibility for use of federal funds within laws allowable, make the process easier for PPACG and local entities, and meet federal and state requirements. So we're trying to not just look at the policy in a vacuum, but look at it comprehensively to make sure that if we are going to change it, it fits the needs of everyone. Questions?
Questions?
Just a comment. First on the action versus comment section. The packets are provided to the board, and I can't speak for myself. I've read the entire packet ahead of time, and when I see motion carried unanimously in tip 7, that carries a lot of weight. But if there's some dissension, if it does not carry unanimously, there's discussion in your minutes, then I would ask that you, I'll probably call you up for a comment before I vote on the issue, just to clarify. And then on the freight issue, I serve on the statewide freight advisory commission. So the one of 2 commissioners at the STAC who are on that commission, statewide area committee. And the ranking of those projects is a recommendation by the FAC to the statewide Transportation Advisory Committee to the Transportation Commission. So if you have specific input, give me a call. I'd be glad to attend TAC meetings if you have specific items. In fact, Victoria Chavez' comment about not having any projects in Pikes Peak region on those recommended lists.
Right.
I made that comment at the last stack. The response was that of all the projects statewide, our projects didn't rank high enough. We had projects, but they didn't rank high enough into the select group, the execute group. So it's not that they weren't considered. They were considered and then ranked lower because other projects had a higher rating.
So freight is not my forte. But do you have those rankings so we at least know what they're looking at, or could Victoria possibly contact you to see what that was? Really, the
person to contact is the CDOT. Jason Wallace is the contact at CDOT. He is the staff contact at CDOT state headquarters for the Freight Advisory Committee working group that created that list. So I'd be glad to contact information.
That would be good. Just so we know what the state's looking for.
And your input's really important. Thanks for your work on it.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The CAC. Mr. Moore.
Good morning. Jim Moore, Chair of the Community Advisory Committee. You have our report and our recommendations. A couple of comments that I would share with you. We have modified our agenda. It really kind of parallels the way you approach your meetings. And so we are clearly dealing with action versus discussion items. And at our meeting this past month, we had a couple of things, including the current discussion of freight project scenarios and the FASTER and HSIP projects that were brought before us as discussion items. So we did not make a recommendation. Some of those may come back, and you may have something from us after our March meeting. We are trying to interact with some of the ongoing projects a little more closely so that we can have a CAC perspective on things like the NOPE process, the NOPE policy, as well as the TAC meetings themselves, And Brian Vituli and I have been in close cooperation to make sure that we have someone attending. I am attending his meetings. I sit out there, I don't sit up there. And conversely, he has been attending our meetings, again, sitting out, just monitoring, not anything active interaction. But we're hoping that this will provide an opportunity for us to bring to each of our meetings more of an understanding of what our two committees are doing, seeing, and bringing to our analysis. We heard from you all last month that what we have to say is important to you, and so we appreciate that, and we want to make sure it's as valuable as it can be. Other than that, we also have had a volunteer that's actually going to monitor your legislative subcommittee. Ellen Hayes from Teller County is on board with that. That's as of yesterday, and I'm not sure how she got so excited on Monday afternoon, but that's the deal. Are there any questions?
That's Ellen.
Oh. Okay, thank you. Yes, and I'd hoped to, but we had something that distracted me, so, all right, thank you.
I take it she is well known.
Engaged citizen.
Engaged. Let's see, somebody's phone is, okay. Regional Advisory Council.
Good morning. My name is Dave Betzler. This is my first meeting. I was unable to attend the one last month. Joe Ruth ably filled in for me. What I'd like to point out, just as a brief introduction, I've had a career as in the Navy, retiring out of NORAD J2. I've had a second career as a defense contractor working for Booz Allen, supporting commands here locally. And this is my third encore career, if you will, as a senior advocate. For the RAC, I guess I'd just like to point out a couple of things you see in the report. That we had our provider fair. That's a great opportunity for members, especially the new members, to get a real appreciation for the services and support provided by senior service organizations across the 3 counties. I'll point out also that the Colorado Senior Day is next Wednesday at the Capitol, and we will hopefully have some members attending that. And the last note I think is that I'd like to point out is that from the RAC, what we're trying to do is trying to look at across the region and say, okay, so what are the issues, sort of like in this last presentation on from the previous committee report, what are the issues that really need to be brought to the attention of the PPACG that impact seniors across the 3 counties? So we're working on that, and we're optimistic that we'll be able to come up with a goal that really highlights those things for you that we're going to work on this year. Pending your questions, that's all I have at this point.
Any questions? Great, thank you. And any Navy people will go through Cheyenne Mountain. Okay. No bias there. Water Quality Management Committee. Back again.
Back for more. A tip to the Navy. My son just graduated the technical program. He's a nuke, and he'll be going underwater pretty soon.
He's really smart.
He's a smart cookie. He gets his brains from his mother, I'm sure. Just updating you on the Water Quality Management Committee. Trustee Smith, that was a good question you had. Will this transition, the 319 watershed management plan, have any effect on our review of wastewater infrastructure? No, that's entirely a separate thing. That's a research effort and a planning document which will be used for regulatory and internal city and possibly county planning processes down the road. The Water Quality Management Committee addresses our what's called Section 208. That's out of the EPA Clean Water Act. Yeah, so all of the wastewater treatment plants are regulated under Section 208 of the Clean Water Act, and our role in all of that is as a planning and advisory body. So if somebody, I'm a little bit off script, but this is probably good, given your question, previous question. Our role in all of this is basically community outreach in terms of information, and that's principally through the CAC, but also getting regional input on technical aspects of that. That's why we have the Water Quality Management Committee. So if somebody is applying to upgrade or or create any new wastewater infrastructure, they have to get that permitted by the state, ultimately. They have to get many signatures along the way, the county and others. They also need our signature on it as in our role as, again, planning and advisory. I had a meeting last month with Brett Eisenogel, who's at the top of this effort, and he updated me on this. The state considers our input seriously, so if there is a project that somebody applies for, whatever it is, and we don't buy into it, they're going to pause and look at it more closely. The state can still approve it, but for all practical intents and purposes, he's shaking head saying that's not likely unless there's a lot of feedback. We would know about that. They're not going to overrule us. So we play an important role, but we're not regulatory per se. We're basically giving our guidance and input up to the state, okay, through our what's called a 208 plan. We presently have a plan that's a little bit long in the tooth, given that there have been changes in regulatory requirements, and there are more to come, being more stringent. So we just stacked hands last month at our last Water Quality Management Committee that we, meaning me, are going to lead the effort to update, dust off, update, make better our 208 plan, which is already a great document. It just needs, we just need to move the furniture around a little bit, hang some new curtains, paint the walls, that kind of thing, so to speak. Continuing work of the Water Quality Management Committee, I am working to encourage the group to consider coordinating and consolidating meetings for the benefit of all. I mean, it costs everybody, salary, public staff time. The consultants have to be, they come to these meetings, they're being paid. So if I can reduce that a little bit. So one of the kinds of things I'm proposing is the first technical meeting we have is the SARC, Site Application Review Committee, and they basically take a first look at a project and then tee the ball up for the Water Quality Management Committee, who votes whether to recommend it to you for approval or not. There's another layer called the Water Quality Management Associations. They're up and down Monument Creek. And I would like to see us coordinate the SARC meetings with those bodies. Now, I need their permission to do that, but I'm working on that. So if I can cut out one meeting, and it also makes the group collectively larger. And secondly, and I have to dodge some bullets whenever you propose a change, understandably, and I'm no different. I don't like change any, somebody wants me to change the way I do, believe me, I can dig in my heels, so there's no criticism. But I'm trying to propose the option for both of these meetings, the SARC, but especially the Water Quality Management Committee. And I have to work internally with our technology gurus to provide the option for those that want to participate remotely using software such as GoToMeeting or something like that, because I think that's going to help us. Although we've had good attendance lately, always met our quorum, but there's some folks that just have a hard time making it here. And especially if we convene the Water Quality Management Committee principally to review a lift station. Okay, the consultant shows up, gives a 5, maybe 10-minute presentation. There's not much to a lift station. We talk about it amongst ourselves, ask various questions. The whole thing is 20 minutes, 30 minutes if maybe for a lift station. So do we really need to meet in all these people driving the staff time for that when we can do it remotely, given we now have the good technology for that? So that's my little world in the Water Quality Management Committee, and I just want to assure you that those efforts are going to increase. And because regulations are getting more stringent, and some of the wastewater plants will be proposing changes and upgrades to address nutrient effluent reductions and the like, that committee is going to become more important, more visible, not less.
Trustee Smith?
I assure you that my question was completely self-serving and self-centered.
Works for me.
We just approved the money for a grant for our to work on our new lagoon.
Yes.
So we're at the infantile state of this thing.
Very good.
So we know that by 2022 we'll all be in handcuffs if we don't have something done.
Orange suits.
Orange suits. Yeah. And so
bologna sandwiches.
We're busy now.
Good.
So that's where we're at. So I just wanted to see what the process was going to look like, down the road. Thank you.
Same process, no change. We're here to serve. Thank you.
Well, I definitely like the fewer meetings, and especially the idea of electronic, where you can do that as long as we can make sure you keep the all the rules on open meetings in line. But I think there's a tremendous, technology can really make that better and reduce traffic congestion.
There you go.
There you go. Yes, Mr. Murray.
Just a question. Do we have the capability here to do video conferencing here in the building?
I don't know if we have video.
Do we have the bandwidth and the capabilities to do video conferencing? Just think about it. Thank you.
I've got
capabilities already, but I'm not sure about video conferencing.
Okay. We'll work on it, I believe.
And then update the bylaws to allow us to do that, yeah. Okay. CDOT monthly update.
A few things to go over. Just want to add on to the freight corridors discussion. There are some studies going on. Everybody knows about the I-25 gap project and the PEL, and then the US 24 corridor as well. Brandy alluded to the fact that we've got to come up with a freight plan in the next year, submitted by the end of the year. So there may be some opportunities with those two projects to potentially look at freight corridors needs on US 24 and I-25. For example, we already know that the way station at Monument needs to be altered or moved for that widening. So there may be an opportunity to look at those studies and dovetail some of those recommendations into that freight corridors list. And then also go back and look at the cleared environmental documents that we have and look at truck-specific needs that we may have missed. So we can do, I think, a better job competing for the next round of funding. So I just would offer that. And then we also had an update on our 24 PEL study. That's the Planning and Environmental Linkage project. We had a public meeting out in Falcon last month. It was well attended. What the focus was initial screening of alternatives. So we're looking at options for widening, options for intersection improvements, options for safety improvements, and things like that. So what was really interesting, or I thought very productive, was the citizens got to sit down and illustrate some of their thoughts on some of the aerials and give their input. So I thought it was very successful. So we would like to present a status of that study, like a midpoint study to the board at some point. And I think we're looking at the next month or two, we'll be about halfway done with that study. So just to give the board a better idea of what's going on with it.
Trustee Smith?
I had actually been to another meeting prior to the meeting that Mark is talking about, and when I saw the amount of work that had been done as far as laying out what was going to be, how many lanes here, what type of intersections here, and everything, and how far they had taken this work. And even though this project, like a lot of other transportation projects, is not funded yet, but this study shows you what's possible and runs out to 2040. And it's very exciting to see what the possibilities are. And the people could actually, as Mark was saying, they had a table like for each area. They break this thing up into 5 segments between Powers and Rama. And when people can sit down at a table and they can take their pencil and say, this needs to be done here. I mean, that's pretty powerful when you give people the ability to have that kind of input. And I've told countless people that 60 years ago, CDOT would have come through here. They would have built a new highway, and you would have been real glad to have a brand new highway and happy to drive on it. And then they wouldn't have asked you question number one about where you thought it should be or how it should be built. So I said, you should be very pleased that you have input into how this is proceeding. And I'm hoping that the board will look into a presentation by CDOT on this. I think you would be. I think it would benefit the board to see this presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Just a couple other notes. There was some good news at the Transportation Commission about approval of some seed money of $20 million statewide. There's a list of projects that are competing for that seed money. The seed money is to get projects shelf ready for our Tier 1 list. We've talked in the past about our capital improvement list, and we've got a Tier 1 through 3 list. The Tier 1 list is $2.5 billion worth of projects. If we were to get funding, another revenue source, that would be the projects that we would recommend to the board to go ahead and move forward with. But with that, we hope to get some of that $20 million to advance some of the projects. For example, Academy to Circle on I-25, that widening project, and then the research interchange to get those to final design. So the best case is we might get, of that $20 million, we might get 2. There were 15 projects on the list. I guess worst case is we get none of that. So they're still determining how they're going to split that money up. There's been some discussion about giving the regions, 5 regions, $4 million apiece, and letting them make that decision. So nevertheless, I think we're in good shape to say, hey, we've got 2 priority projects here that are short that we need to advance to get those shelf ready. So the Manitou signal. Mayor, we've had some discussions about funding sources. Right now, we're still trying to figure out if we can use some capital signal improvement money, potentially some RPP money if there's some outlined money left over that we may be able to fund with that, or a combination of funds. So we're looking at that. We know it meets warrants. It is a signal that we can fund if we get the funding to do it. So that's the iteration we're going through right now. We've had a lot of ongoing meetings with the I-25 Planning and Environmental Linkage Study. It's been well attended by our elected officials and some key stakeholders, and I think it's been very productive. I think the good news again that I see is that there's a direction in terms of a schedule to get the project ready for construction by 2019. I think we're still on target for that. And then with that, within that time frame, we're looking at breaking out a separate environmental document for the GAP project. That would be Monument to Castle Rock, and then complete the design ready for construction by 2019. So even though the study goes from Monument up to 470, they need to finish that environmental study with that section. They're also going to focus on a first project for Monument to Castle Rock, the GAP. With that, I think I'm done. I'm going to bring up Dave if he's ready to give a brief update on Cimarron.
Good morning. Thanks, Mark. Dave Watt, one of Mark's resident engineers, and this is our monthly update for the I-25 Cimarron project. We remain on budget and on schedule for completion by December 1st, 2017. A couple of highlights that are in the newsletter there. There's some focus on the work you see progressing on Upper Fountain Creek. It is starting to take shape. You can see a little bit of the curves that we're going to have in the low flow channel. I think last month or so I got to use the term sinuosity. I'm trying to get that out of my vocabulary a little bit. But we're starting to see the channel take shape. It still looks a little bit clear out there, and as springtime comes, you're going to start seeing a lot of vegetation and planting of some of those riparian grasses and willow reeds and things like that. So it's starting to take shape on Upper Fountain Creek. The work is progressing on northbound I-25 with some of the pavement. You'll see some girders being set probably this month on the I-25 overpass that's spanning Fountain Creek as well as US 24. Work is also progressing on the northbound I-25 on-ramp. We've got a bridge that's being built on grade. If you see it, it looks a little bit unusual, but it's a slab bridge that is being poured on grade, and here yet this month they'll start digging out underneath that bridge, and you'll start seeing the new on-ramp take shape. We'd like to dispose of the temporary on-ramp yet later this month before those spring rains hit. So that's where we've got a temporary crossing to serve as the on-ramp currently, but that should be coming out in the next couple, 3 weeks. A lot of work is progressing underneath the overpass. You see as we start to see the single-point urban interchange take shape, if you will. We do have a unanticipated closure that for safety precautions we are closing for a few days this week. The US 24 westbound left turn lanes that go on to US 24. That's a safety precaution. We weren't liking some of the spacing we were seeing there. So that will be open back up on Friday. We're seeing some night work to remedy that situation and get that ramp moving back opened up. But there's been a lot of coordination between Carl Springs Traffic Engineering, the project team, the contractor, and felt that was the best decision to make. But looks like that's going to be a temporary condition. We'll get that back open Friday evening. Want to emphasize again, as I started the talk, on budget, on schedule for December 1st completion of this year. And if there's questions, I'm happy to entertain those. Or we are happy to entertain those. Mark, you want to add something?
So if I'm coming north on I-25 and I get up at Cimarron, I'm not going to be able to make a left?
No, if you are leaving downtown Colorado Springs and going west, you're not going to be able to get on southbound I-25. You would need to go down to the Nevada interchange.
Okay, and that's for how long?
Till Friday.
Okay.
This week.
That's why I leave here today, can I get on the freeway or should I go?
I would go to Bijou.
I really thought that would be a real mess.
Oh, it is a mess. There's a.
You'll see some highlights in the news that are also.
Yeah, but it's, yeah.
People would just have 55 on the freeway, I think.
Yeah, when I say mess, I mean it is, when you drive over there and look at it, it can be daunting as you drive down into it. But it's laid out pretty nicely for a construction project, and you get through it very well, my compliments. It's worked very, very well. Commissioner Scott. I was about to call on you anyway.
Oh, great. Just after Mark's report, I think it's important for us to remember that it's exciting the way progress has been demonstrated by CDOT, not only on funded projects, but in planning projects. But at the end of the day, the I-25 gap depends upon action in funding. And I'd say that the legislative solution is far from certain at this point in time, so it would be good for us to pay very close attention to whatever it takes to get something going, whether it's that solution or another. There are clearly a number of options to get that funding in place, but at this point in time, it's once again far from certain that any of them on the table are going to be successful.
Okay, thank you. I was going to insert Commissioner Scott a moment if you had anything to add on top of what you've already said.
I'm still the new guy, and the learning curve is steep, but I continue to be impressed, as I say, by the work that's going on now. I also continue to be mortified is too strong a word, but let's say strongly concerned about the result of inaction when it comes to funding. We're doing a lot of planning. We clearly know, particularly those of, which is most of us who drive I-25, every day that goes by, it's going to get more challenging. I think over the next 20 years, the population increase between Northern Colorado Springs and 470 is about 500,000. And so I think CDOT's trying to get out ahead of it, saying there are technology solutions, such as metering, more dynamic rather than static metering. All that will be helpful. But at the end of the day, as much as a lot of us would like to see high-speed rail and some of these other more high-volume solutions in place, they could play a role potentially, but those aren't free either. So whatever approach we take to address the needs of mobility, and I think safety is a paramount consideration for travelers in Colorado on interstate highways, state highways. If we don't fund it, those conditions will continue to get worse. So I think there are reasons to be optimistic at the degree to which we hear a very strong concern from everybody in the resolution that something happened. The path to those solutions is not clear.
Okay. Which phases very nicely into the State Transport Advisory Committee update. I went up there this time, and so did Trustee Smith. A few interesting comments that came out of that. We had quite a discussion on the legislative update, talking about federal, and should we say clarity eludes still on exactly what the federal funding or what that looks like in the future. So other than telling us that stand by for updates, that was about it. On the state, I think we've already had a discussion on some of the state measures here that's changing very rapidly, so I'm not going to go through what we did because it's already obsolete. Freight projects, a couple other things bring up, they did an update on the freight projects and on some of the a block of funding that goes for the freight corridors. And it was alluded to earlier in the meeting here, and not a lot of projects ended up in our particular region. We had a spirited discussion about that. But it was laid out very well, and the explanation was very clear of exactly how the rankings were going. And by the end of it, I had to kind of say that, yeah, they did a very, very good job, and it's going to where the need is statewide. And so there's that part. Another discussion related to that was the rest areas that are across the state, and there's still a number of rest areas that are closed or are not in good condition, are up to standards. So there's a whole project about how to address that, and there wasn't any particular resolution of that, but other than the fact that there's effort going on there working to define exactly what that requirement set is going to look like. And one of the things that I've mentioned at the STAC meetings before is we have a nice rest area that's halfway between here and Castle Rock, and it doesn't look like it's going to come open anytime soon. That does relate back into the freight corridor projects because that's primarily what it is a freight rest stop, and more to come. But we are working on that. And I'll come back to one more item. And then there was another discussion there about the ramp metering. So that's another project where they're upgrading ramp metering around the state, and much more so than the fairly static during a particular time frame. The lights come on and ramp meter you every 30 seconds and feeds a car in. The ramp metering that they're trying to put in now across the state are dynamic. That actually measures traffic flow and adjusts those ramp meterings to match the flow. And as they do testing on that, it increases the efficiency of that tremendously. but it tends to be a little pricey to put it in. So a few projects that are going around, and I'm not quite sure if pricey is the right term, but it certainly is a little bit more costly than just putting a 30-second timer, because you have to put in sensors and so forth. So Trustee Smith, do you have anything else to add? Go ahead.
They caught a 1-2 punch. Andy led the charge. The subject of the Volkswagen settlement came up.
Oh, yeah.
And we sort of brought up the idea of were they going to stick with the original initiative, which was to share those funds by county, by number of units registered by county. And they were kind of backing away from that and talking about, well, maybe those funds should go to the county that still had areas where they had not attained air quality control. And Andy, maybe you can go ahead and tell them what you said on your first round.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. There was another spirited discussion, and I made, I think, fairly forcefully the point that counties, and Trustee Smith pointed out, counties that had cleaned up their air were being penalized for having done so, and I kind of emphasized that point and said, a very high percentage of the cars that are the reason for the settlement are in El Paso County, and the idea that they would say, well, you guys are in really good air quality, therefore we're going to take your money because you've done such a great job, and send it to somebody else who's shall we say, not stepped up to the plate. So there's more to follow on that one. There will be, I don't know, I think there was a fair number of people around the table who were nodding their heads when I made that point, but there was a fair number of people who, shall we say, their air quality isn't that good, and their efforts have not been up to the mark, weren't quite enthused by that idea. So, yeah, they're salivating about money. So there's more to follow on that. There was no resolution at the STAC, but that is a point of contention, and I will go back to something someone said earlier about calling your local representative, because that may well be decided in the legislature.
Andy did promise some blowback from the PPACG if they continued down that path. I told him that the Colorado Springs area at one time had some of the worst air, and that taxpayer money had been spent to clean up this area, and that it was horribly unfair to now take that same money away from this area and give it to other communities when that money could be spent to help fund other projects in this area that weren't funded by taxpayers back then, so that we have crumbling roads down here now that need to be funded because they had foregone those back then. So between the two of us, we made a point, I think.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I had actually forgotten it, but I guess I characterize that as a grenade in a punch bowl. Go ahead.
So I was not able to attend STAC this last month. He had two great representatives, and I'm sorry I missed that discussion. What I did go to instead is I was at the federal level. Friday morning of STAC, I went to the National Association of Counties meeting, and I attended representing the Pikes Peak region. A couple updates at the federal level. The FAST Act, which funds roads starting in December 2015 up to 2021, there's the discussion already what that new replacement for FAST looked like in 2021. The big news was the $1 trillion infrastructure project proposed by the current administration. A lot of discussion. There's no structure at all to that bill yet. The Congress is very busy with health care and tax reform, and those are occupying every spare minute of time and last molecule of oxygen in Washington, D.C. in those two items. So you won't expect to see any language, any discussion, any structure, probably until mid-2018. But some of the things we do know is that the counties nationwide, more than 3,000 counties advocated, and I'm on the Transportation National Steering Committee for federal legislation, was that we advocated for strong local flexibility to how funds are used. We advocated strongly for sustainable funding source at the federal level. Right now, the highway transit, the HTF is backfilled extensively by the federal fund. It's not. It ran out of money in August of last year, and it's helped along, limping along since then. So we're advocating for a strong, sustainable funding source. Also reminded that this is not road infrastructure only. It's roads, ports, seaports, airports, fiber optic cable is a component of infrastructure. It's being looked at carefully, multiple different agencies at the federal level, and rail. And we also had an opportunity to meet, not one-on-one, but a very small group, 10 of us, met with our Colorado delegation, both U.S. senators and 4 of our 7 representatives. They know about the I-25 gap. We told them about it. That they know the issue, that they know they are advocating for local funding, federal funding for, in the short term for that project. We do expect change. We have Secretary Chow, the new Transportation Secretary, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt, EPA, with rules being now reviewed, whether or not there might be some relief in federal NEPA. I don't know, but it's on the table for review. When the President-elect at 3 o'clock in the morning on November 9th makes a comment about how we need to improve infrastructure as his opening comment as a President-elect of the United States, it's got somebody's attention. And that attention is percolating through a lot of federal agencies. So stay tuned. We don't know what it's going to look like, but things are very, very positive. So any questions on federal? So we're all very active carrying the Pikes Peak voice up, both to Denver and
100% of the Colorado representatives and that were favorable on the gap?
We only talked to 4 of 7. So those.
I thought you said all 7.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, we only talked. So we did not get to talk to Congresswoman DeGette, Ken Buck, or Scott Tipton. Both those had other committee meetings they were in, but we did talk to the other 4. And Corey Gardner and Michael Bennett both talked in great detail about infrastructure in Colorado, so they're both very well informed. Senator Gardner's on appropriate committees that affect transportation, commerce. Michael Bennett is on committees that are not related to transportation, but Senator Gardner very, very engaged. We talked for 45 minutes in great detail about infrastructure and lots of things pertaining to Teller, Park, and El Paso counties. So, good discussion. Your folks in D.C. are very engaged.
Okay. We've been at this for an hour and a half. We can take a break or we can press through, and everybody can cycle through as they wish. The board. Okay, seeing no cheers, we will press. 7A, 2050 Long Range Transportation Survey update.
Good morning again, Board. It's Jessica McMullen, your Policy and Communications Manager. So I'm giving you the update on the 2050 survey. We have, as of this morning, received 367 responses in the just barely 4 weeks that the survey has been open. We have spent a total of $80 for all of our advertising to get that many responses, including print. So hopefully all of you have shared it, but I even have some things. It's scheduled to close at 5 p.m. tomorrow. I'm going to pass these around. Please take a handful and convince people to do them today and tomorrow. Our current schedule for the survey is that it will close at 5 p.m. tomorrow, March the 9th. On Monday, March the 13th, we will do a workshop to review those survey results. Our goal is to take out the themes of those and really figure out what the priorities across the TAC, CAC, board, and community are. Those will go to the TAC for a special meeting the following week for them to take those themes and general ideas and combine them into goals that they are suggesting that PPACG take forward. These goals will be presented to the CAC for comment again at the end of March, and then we'll begin the voting process in April, and the board should see them on May 10th. Does anyone have any questions? Has anybody not taken the survey? Take the survey.
Take the survey, yeah, that's right. Take the survey. How many computers could you have?
That's right.
JLUS update.
For one, I'll correct this as well. We like to fix things in the JLUS program. Just kidding, just kidding. This is Brian Potts. I'm the program manager for the Joint Land Use Study here at PPACG. We are at in some important milestones, and it's been just a little over a year since we had our first policy committee meeting. It's been almost exactly a year since our first tech committee meeting, and we've had some important things that have happened over the last couple months, so I thought this was a good time to come and update the board on our progress. At this point, we have about a year left in the study, so we're just over halfway through. We had a technical committee meeting on last week where we started to go over some of the results of a public outreach event that was done in the Air Force Academy area on February 23rd up at Library 21C. We believe we had a good turnout. It looked like there was about 100 people there. Some people didn't sign in, so of course we don't have an exact number, but there was a good media turnout. And what we learned from this event was that a lot of the working groups who have come up with draft strategy thus far were on the right track in terms of getting at the issues that the public cares about that relates to the Air Force Academy. We also had some positive feedback that they were happy we did an outreach event, that they were glad someone was studying some of these issues, and many people are looking forward to the results as to how the community and the military can partner on resolving some issues in the area or things that are of concerns to citizens. So primarily, we learned that we're still on the right track with some of the results we got in our electronic survey a year ago, that we're addressing flight training and some of the sound that can come from that. Also, of course, we got a lot of positive feedback that there's many people that don't have an issue with it, but we're trying to address the full spectrum. And then outside of that, the new Santa Fe Trail across the Air Force Academy, a lot of people were encouraged and excited that there's efforts to try and keep that going, as well as some interest from various parties to look at alternative routes that may be new bike trails that could get built elsewhere. So that discussion was happening amongst the public and other individuals there who work on trail issues in the area. Outside of that, also in February, we finalized the contract with DOLA to get the $60,000 a local match. So that is going to be a part of the local funding. So now all funding sources have been secured, and we're moving ahead with that and the reporting that's associated with that. And in addition to that, we are currently drafting the first 3 chapters of the study. Once we have those first 3 chapters drafted, that will go to the technical committee for comment, the policy committee for comment, and then after we receive those comments, we'll be posting it online so that anyone from the public, anyone can take a look at it. Those are introductory chapters that are going to go through what is a joint land use study, why is it important, what is our region, and what are the military bases in the area. So it's going to be the introductory chapters before we start digging into issues related to each installation. So that's where we're at right now, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, if you don't right now, feel free to email me anytime.
Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Good report. Faster and HSIP projects.
Good afternoon, good morning. You have to pardon me. Hopefully you can hear me all well. I've been fighting a cold, so I wanted to thank you for this time to come and present. My name is Matthew Jago. I'm with CDOT Region 2 out of our traffic engineering program. I'm here to talk today about CDOT's proposed list for the upcoming FY18 to 21 list for the Highway Safety Improvement Program and the Faster Safety Mitigation Program. Both of these programs are two of the main funded programs that CDOT uses to try to address safety throughout the state and the region. You should have received in your packet a memo with also a brief write-up about each of the programs and how we go through in selecting projects, along as well with the spreadsheet of a list of current projects that we evaluated in the region to propose moving forward as part of this upcoming next 4-year rolling step. So kind of backing up a little bit. Back in September, at the request of Karen, in preparation for the upcoming rolling step for FY18 to 21, the traffic program started to coordinate with the various TPRs, MPOs, through county hearings and also internal feedback from within CDOT, both our North and South programs that covers the 14 counties in Region 2. We started to try to identify locations to evaluate to see if they would meet the criteria of either both or one of those programs. From that list, what you see before, we are moving forward. We are like to discuss to get feedback from you as a group. We've already been through the TAC as for discussion and the CAC for discussion. Is again getting any sort of feedback or any impression that we can take back and discuss of the 13 projects moving forward. As it currently identified right now, there are 4 projects out of the 13 that we're proposing to move forward that are in PPACG. There are 2 that are listed under the North program. It's the State Highway 21 Powers and Research Project that I'm sure Mark has probably talked about a little bit. We're looking to possibly use that funding that can helpfully fund starting the design and implement some of the analysis that we got into incorporated into that project. The other location is the State Highway 83 passing lane that's kind of towards the northern part of El Paso County. It's between, I believe, Walker Road and County Line Road. The other 2 that are as listed up in traffic is a proposed I-25 right metering project, and I'm going to kind of amend the name of that. But again, it is going to be, as Annie was mentioning, is we're looking to in the region to move forward with not so much a static ramp metering project, but along the lines of there's been several names. It's been called dynamic, adaptive, or smart ramp metering. Region 1 currently is moving through with a similar project right now along those lines. And then the second one is trying to fix the left lane drop that's on I-25 right before the way station, is that we're going to be doing some operational improvements to try to address issues along that. And that is the third project. This is the I-25 Monument COBRA project. And COBRA is Congestion Operations Bottleneck and Relief Assistance. It was a program that was identified through part of a study that we've further analyzed and realized it could qualify for faster safety funding. Again, majority of these projects, what you see up above you on this list, is what we got through feedback. We were trying to identify projects and locations that we can get for the standpoint of our largest bang for the buck, most important safety improvements. And that typically is for both programs, for faster safety and highway safety improvement program, is based on a certain BC ratio minimum qualification. For faster safety, right now the minimum is 0.25. However, statewide goal, each region is trying to commit to at least an average of 1. For the highway safety improvement program, which again is a federal program, the minimum is a 1.0, but statewide, CEDA is trying to average at least a 2. I can go further if I need to explain the BC ratio. I not know quite full my audience, but simply put, is what we're looking at is in that calculation is from the standpoint what is the cost of proposed improvement, idea, design, construction, any potential right-of-way, overall capital cost. And then what we look for is from the standpoint what that improvement would get us in terms of reduce crashes along that section. And in that section of in that aspect of redux crashes gives us an associated benefit cost, and we compare that benefit cost to the site to the associated anticipated capital cost to do that improvement, and that's how the BC ratio on a very high level is really looked at. Given and taken into consideration is that I know the three lists were broken up between Traffic South Program, North Program, but to emphasize, all these locations were looked over, particularly in traffic, over the 14 counties that currently encompasses Region 2. We try to be fair based on the given allotment that both programs, typically faster safety, we are now averaging anywhere between, in the region, $10 to $14 million. And in the Highway Safety Improvement Program, we're averaging about 5.1, which of that does include about 2.5 million for potentially local agency off-system projects. So along that line, again, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the list. Again, we try to bring it to the board as we did to the TAC and the CAC for discussions to get feedback. The intent is that if, in general, there is no negative feedback, or if it seems like everyone is in consensus that these are good projects to move forward with, CDOT's intention is that we will move forward to formally apply for each of these projects to see if they qualify for that money. And then once they do, we assure that we do have the money allocated for those projects. That's particularly here with Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, that we would come back through with STIP requests to get them formally on the STIP as part of the action items to go again through the TAC, the CAC, and the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Matthew, just a couple of questions, and if you've addressed this, forgive me. So,
no, certainly.
But in the traffic, you talked about the way station in Monument.
Yes.
I'm assuming that no funds would be expended on that to do anything until it was aligned with what we're trying to do for the gap widening.
And in that sense of the gap, what it is, what we've tried to take is that knowing that what's going through with the PEL and the gap project, what we're proposing is to change that left lane drop into a right lane that would be consistent. It's mainly an operation project that would be what we would call a striping project that would change, so it would not change any current configuration of I-25 in terms of widening or anything of that nature. It's just mainly changing the lane lines to hopefully improve functionality.
What would be the cost associated with doing that?
We anticipated the cost around $250,000. It's a simple project that we can possibly do, either one of our current region-wide striping projects, thing like that along that lines, or we would do a separate project that would go out and to do it.
What would be the anticipated timeline on that?
It's kind of hard to say. Again, that we're trying to fund this with FY21. As soon as FY18 hits, I'm the asset manager for Faster Safety and Highway Safety Improvement Program. I can advance that money if I so could. It just goes along with how soon we can get the project through our project development process.
Well, it's my understanding that hopefully by 21, we're going to be widening I-25 along there.
Right.
So hopefully the funding would be able to roll into that other funding as well, as opposed to a separate project.
And that is the possibility. Is from the standpoint that is a standard operating procedure that any of these projects that are up here. We work closely with our North and South program that if there's a project that's identified in the similar area, that we try to see if we can combine those projects to try to reduce construction. But also that will help us get a bigger bang for the buck for us, because we're getting a better safety improvement for typically we may be able to save in some terms of similar cost pay items that project may share. So along that lines with the I-25 project, it may, from the standpoint based on that, we may try to advance because it is a noted area until the gap project can come through and completely fix I-25. I just right now at that I can't really say what our intention is, how soon we try to move through and get that project out.
Is the funding for that, is the request because there have been a high number of accidents or deaths along that corridor, or why exactly?
It is because there's a high number of accidents, and it's also a noted area of major congestion, because people just quite honestly are not quite understanding the left lane drop. It's typically not done along major interstates. It's just that it was noted by both headquarters and by the region that this is a pinch point that we noted that we want to try to address. Now, mind you that the project may have some minor improvements, but that's the standpoint is that hopefully that this would buy us some time until the gap projects that could show hopefully does get funded and overall do the complete fix from Monument to Castle Rock.
Right. And then did you address the gate project down near Fort Carson, I-25, and what's the gate that we're trying to do the widening? Gate 19. Did you address that, or is that north of your or south of your region?
Trying to think where that is. I might need Mark's help on that.
I don't know that there's a safety issue as much as a partnership to get defense acquisition road dollars.
Right.
And that was actually getting a lot of support not only from the PPACG but the Military Affairs Committee is really taking that one on too. We have nominated that as our #1 project, competing in that category for defense dollars. It's not
It was a Tiger, yeah. I think a Tiger.
I don't know that it's competing under the safety.
It may not be competing on this list. And something I want to iterate, as I said, that we started this effort back in September. This is going to be a standard practice going forward with the region that as every new fiscal year comes up, to add on to the back end of the rolling STIP, we are going to look, the traffic program in Region 2 is going to look at locations to continually add to this list so it will become more of a live updated list. And as funding becomes available or things change with these particular projects, if we need to reevaluate, because admittedly a lot of the data that we used to do the analysis only covered accident data reports. That's what we used up till December 2015. Unfortunately, that's where we're at right now with our reporting. But again, so that is the premise, that any project that is not moving forward currently will stay on the list and be really evaluated again, but we'll also add, and that also will include that a lot of the corridors that are on your 10-year capital list that we're going to look at, we just didn't have the time to do that in-depth analysis, so we try to identify current immediate projects, but going forward with the 10-year capital list, those locations will be added to the list and try to narrow down and find quick wins that we can use to fund with faster safety or highway safety improvement program.
And my last question, sorry.
Sure.
For that. While you're looking at your lists and updating them for the future, I'd really like to have you take into consideration Highway 94 heading out towards Schriever Air Force Base. We have had a high number of accidents out there, and
Certainly.
as we see an increased volume come into Schriever Air Force Base, and the explosion of potential residential communities out there in the future, I think that really, if possible, could be one of the high list ones as well.
And that is a fair location.
High growth areas, yes.
And that's a fair location, and it has been noted in prior meetings. And Mark, Andrew even brought it up that is a location that we will look into for the next analysis we'll add in. We do have some safety projects planned for 94. We have an intersection improvement project, and also I'm trying to remember. I think
At Peyton and 94,
Yeah.
we have a safety projects that's funded. We had a fatality in that area. So we are looking at 94. I think the good news, when there was a call for priorities for all the entities, the city did request that we look at putting some money on 94 for safety improvements. And I can't remember what was recommended, but I think it was around 10 to 15 million. But with that said, what the good news here, I think, even though we have a lot of projects on this list, what will flesh out is the projects with the best benefit cost. So those are going to compete well. So projects like research, even if we get seed money, we may be able to use this money for research because it's a high crash location. So.
Right.
Gate 19, I think that's Charter Oaks Ranch Road, I think is what you were referring to. That was the Tiger grant that was funded for design and right-of-way only. It doesn't have construction. I think it's got a deficit of 6.5 to 7 million for construction. That was on the freight corridors list to fund that. So there may be, I don't know if faster safety would necessarily qualify for that type of project because it's a newer road. We'd have to look at that. But you know, it's certainly a priority that we want to keep on that freight corridors list, I believe, and then maybe look at other options in the future. So it's 94, certainly. That's a project we want to, you know, look at projects and, you know, monitor the safety out there and make some recommendations.
Trustee Smith?
Have, you know, you got like 25 projects listed here. Have all these projects completed a study and been approved, or are they not of a nature that they need a study to move ahead?
What we did is we have a program that we can do a safety analysis through that goes through and looks at accident data. And then basically what we try to look for is any potential accident pattern that's above typical norm on the nationwide scale for that type of roadway classification. We take that information, we look at, okay, based on this type of accident pattern, what type of recommended safety improvements would try to address that, and we would get a good benefit to cost ratio. With all those projects we went through, that's what we did. That is part of the regional first tier aspects is that we have to do the analysis. The next step that if we move forward with these projects on this list is that we have to do a formal application for both Highway Safety Improvement Program and Faster Safety that will go through review by headquarters, and they will review and either approve or deny those projects. Anyone that does not get approved, we'll look through and see if there's something that we were missing or if there's something else, another project to move up the list to replace that project.
So
hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and again, I'm looking at this and wondering if there's a project in here and maybe it'll get rolled in with something else that's going on down the road.
And that is our intent, is, like I said, is we really want to try to minimize construction impacts if we can.
Commissioner?
How does a project get on this list? Is this an analysis of raw data, an accident data that feeds this list, or do you need our input too?
Like I try to indicate is that it came through input from Mark Andrew Eugene Hugh. It came from noted areas that came up through, we get accident fatality reports that may indicate that a continual issue in one particular area. We also got feedback from our other planning partners, the other TPRs, Central Front Range, Southeast TPR, and South Central TPR.
If we have a project, we should let you know.
Certainly. And that is the commitment, Norm, going forward, is that trying to have a more active list. Again, we tried to get our more immediate needs that we were aware of, given the short amount of time that we were trying to get through this analysis and get into this aspect of planning, because we were trying to get all these locations analyzed and prioritized before the joint TPR meeting that CDOT had with our planning partners in January of this year. So.
And then other questions, Rod, with the DAR, Defense Access Road money, how does that sync up with other sources of funding? Is there somebody at the same table talking about defense money as well as faster?
So we're doing a lot of parallel,
Yeah.
Just competing for different funds. I'm sure it does sync up, but I don't.
Where?
I know that we're already committed to the paving aspect. Once you come into Gate 19 with some of the excess that we've had in our military construction, we'll probably have the rest of that road paved on the installation awarded by the end of this year and then being paved into the next year once we get into the opportunity for paving season. But the defense acquisition road stuff is actually money to be spent on the other side of the gate, and it marries in with the Tiger grant.
Right.
And maybe Mark knows how it all works, but I know
But
that it's...
when it comes together, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. We are looking at some things to just upgrade the facilities and take fiber optics out there to do all the proper checks if we open that gate fully.
Jennifer can speak on her project, I guess.
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. Those monies for those DAR projects get appropriated at the federal level. And so we've been in contact with our legislative officials, and actually our new commissioner, Commissioner Gonzalez, thank you. Our new commissioner, we're actually meeting with him and getting him up to speed, hopefully, I think, next week on the project. And then our plan is to go ahead and meet with Fort Carson here soon after that. We want to make sure that he's fully, briefed on the project. And our new commissioners are really learning a lot very quickly. So, and then we have also been working with our federal legislative at the federal level, our Ferguson group, which is our federal lobbyist in regards to that. So that's kind of what we're doing at this point to try and position ourselves either for DAR money also, or for the Gate 19 project, or another Tiger grant as it may come up. So we're looking at all different kinds of options.
The question is, how does that all sync up? If we've got people who don't have different pots of money, where do they coalesce into a project?
Well, that's a good question. I think the way it works is if there's an option, an opportunity for funding, I think you compete for it, but there's no guarantee you're going to get that money. So, for example, research, there's no guarantee we were going to get seed money potentially, and we still may not get it. So we put it on the faster safety list.
Right.
And if we do get that funded through faster safety, we may look at, can we use that seed money for another project in Pikes Peak? So the good news, I guess, is the RPP money that is in some of these projects could be freed up if we're using that. That's very flexible. So I think it's a good idea to try to compete for as many options as you can for these projects. And so how do they sync up? That's a hard one to answer. I mean, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. So you try as much opportunity as you can. If you do have the money, then you show, here's my shortfall, and here's what the type of money that could fit into that shortfall. For example, RPP or faster safety, or to fill the gaps.
Somebody's going to approve funding, but that's not enough, so the whole project is on hold for the 10%. You get 90%, but you can't proceed until you get the 10. Do you commit 90 winning of the 10, or do you proceed?
Yeah, I guess depends on the project. So.
Yeah, I mean,
that's part of what we do.
and that kind of goes, and again, that goes with the program is that, again, like Mark brought up his research and Park, when we did the analysis, we saw that there was definitely, it could qualify for faster safety. The money that we're moving forward with can be used for design and potentially right away. But again, with that project commitment, there still has to be a commitment that whatever money Mark gets is that those improvements we recognize has to be incorporated into that project. So that basically, because from a standpoint of an audit purposes, that we met the conditions of the faster safety program. So
Matthew, what's the total on this list here? What's the cost?
I think I put in for currently right now they're really encouraging CDOT overall statewide to be 120% above both programs. So I think I targeted $18 million roughly for FY21 faster safety, and I think about $6.5 million for highway safety improvement program for both years. I do have some gaps in earlier funding in that year that I have some potentially these projects that aren't currently shown that we may go back and look at to see if to go and fill in gaps that I have in FY18 and 19 in both programs. But right now we're just trying to focus on getting these projects through our planning partners to make sure that there's no concern about them.
But you have more than $18 million on this list. You're only.
Oh yeah, there's well more than $18 million. There's probably
$18 million worth of projects.
I think by what I totaled up was well over $40 million, give or take. I can't remember. It's been a while since I added them up, but And that's what I went through in the list. And admittedly, it was primarily me doing the list, but I went back and got feedback from Mark and Ajin when I did the priority, is trying to balance this among the region and the 14 counties as best as I could. Admittedly, because of the BC ratios, a lot of it did end up in Central Front Range, and PPACG are getting more of the, admittedly, lion's share of the funding.
So I guess I would just add, we have the Tier 1 capital list, and we've had conversations with traffic trying to marry those needs with the priority list. And so that we need to continue to look at that list. Maybe it's 22, when we apply for 22 money, that we take a look at PPACG's priorities and try to marry those needs as best we can. With that said, there's going to be some outlying safety projects that are not on anybody's radar that suddenly pop up, like the 83 passing lane project, based on congestion and accident rate. It just comes up. And so those might rise to the top in terms of priorities. And because of the benefit cost.
And as what Mark said, is truly is the effort of what the program is that taking into account that we know of issues that come up like Highway 94 and Highway 94 and other areas. It's not to say that we're discounting them, is that taking up immediate needs that show that have the accident pattern, that have a big bang for the buck, because it is a goal of CDOT and statewide, is that we're trying to instead of what used to be in the faster safety program, you may fund 1 or 2 projects for anywhere $7 to $14 million, but the benefit cost ratio is maybe like a 0.4. We're trying to get 5 to 10 projects that have a wide range of anywhere from a 0.6 to up to I think the highest one I had up there was 11 that could qualify, that I can get more projects out and try to address more immediate needs. But again, we're trying to make a commitment to have an active list, to get feedback, and kind of relook at prioritization. As long as they meet the qualifications, then we can discuss priorities as far as what projects need to go out first.
Thank you.
So, any other further questions?
Trustee Smith?
Just a comment. If it can be done for minimal expense, I think when these jobs are being when they're under construction, if you can, put up there that it's being completed with faster funds so that the taxpayers know what they're getting for their money. PERTA, I feel, does a good job of this. And, I think it helps, sell the project, if you will.
And that is a requirement of faster safety that we do have signing that we put up to notify the public that these are funded by faster safety and all that stuff. So there is that commitment. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice. So.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Member entity announcements. Anybody have anything for the good of the crowd? Seeing none, you have, go ahead.
Thanks. Just a couple of things. I don't know if some of you may or may not receive Ready App alerts from El Paso County, but just as you're walking out, there is a wildfire going on near Gold Camp and Old Stage Road near Peters Dome Trailhead. Multiple agencies are responding, so if you see smoke going out, now you know why. Gold Camp Road and Old Stage near Peters Dome Trailhead, so heading up towards north. So just wanted to let you know that. I also wanted to let people know that I'd attempted to meet with some of our Fourth ID folks when I was over in Germany last week, and I was in contact with Master Sergeant Brett Williams, who's the PIO over there. And unfortunately, because Atlantic Resolve is going on and we had a lot of activity that week, they were unable to meet with me at that point in time, but I extended our goodwill and good wishes from El Paso County over there.
Awesome. So we're seeing a little bit of the dry winter fire season to follow. Maybe a bit grim. Okay. Any other comments? No other. You have the meeting schedules in your packets. Any other comments? Last call. We are adjourned.
11:15. All right.
Not bad.
Earlier than usual.